I'm super pumped today because it's the first day of the season here in Canada, and it's the safety day as we call it. The reason why we do that is that we do our safety day the day of opening is that, of course, in Canada we do have an off season, and that off season is usually like up to 6 months, so it's a pretty long time without jumping if you're not traveling around. So by doing that, the safety day is just there to help us get back into the safety procedures and the risk awareness before starting our skydiving season. And if the time permits, if the weather permits, we'll be able to do some jumps. Well, not me, because you know why, but the skydivers that will be there will be able to do some jumps. Today it's kind of a rainy day, so I'm not sure it's gonna happen, but we'll see. So while I'm driving there, I just wanted to share with you kind of what's the goal of a safety day and what we're usually looking at whenever we go there. And I highly recommend wherever you are in the world, if there's a safety day at your drop zone, usually it's once or twice a year, I'm not sure about that, but do not hesitate to go there and refresh yourself with the safety procedures, the risks surrounding the drop zone, because things can move and things can change on the drop zone. I'm talking about maybe obstacles and stuff like that. So it's always good to get a small refresher. And I know in the US, since some of the states are jumping all year around, and that might be the case also in many countries where there's no winter, lucky you. What the USPA has created is the safety day also, but it's on a particular week. So actually the second week of March, the USPA is asking the drop zones all over the United States to do kind of a safety day. For them it's not kick-starting the season, but it's a good thing to have a steady point in time where the skydivers can get refreshers about the emergency procedures. So that's great. So what are the safety days for? Well, like I've said, it's to remind ourselves of the risks of the sport, but more precisely what you guys will most likely see are the gear checks procedures and review them. And also you guys can review the emergency procedure and do some drills. They can also talk about canopy flights and landing patterns, especially if something has changed on the drop zone. And I know this year at my drop zone in Quebec, things have changed a little bit. Depending on the license you are at, you are allowed to land in specific areas. So things have moved a little bit. So that's a good thing to get ourselves into before the season. You might also go over the aircraft safety and emergency procedure. That's an important one. And of course, the day is to kickstart the season, so have fun. It's made to have fun. You're meeting your old friends, skydivers that you've not seen for 6 months if you have an off season. But other than that, we are meeting new people if new skydivers are coming to jump at our drop zone this year. And also, hopefully, this season is starting, so we'll get to jump. So that's a pretty good day to attend every year. But like I said earlier, today it's kind of rainy. We'll see what happens during the rest of the day. But hopefully I'll get some shots of the plane taking off and the skydivers land. So just finished the safety day. There was still some briefing going on, especially for new skydivers, but I decided to go because actually The weather is not getting better, although we see the sun coming out more. So they won't be able to jump today, unfortunately, but next weekend we'll cross finger for the season to start. I know everyone is pretty excited to do their first jump. I had a lot of informations that I'll be able to share with you in further videos. So one of the takeaway was always, so in skydiving there's a lot of risks, just like any extreme sports, but that being said, you have to consider the level of risk at every jump. And what they say is that whenever you have 2 or maximum 3 risk factors that are coming into play, every time you do a jump, you need to consider the risk factors that are adding to the jump. So let's say the first jump of the season, that's one risk element that you're adding on top of the actual jump. And so what we want to aim for is no more than 3 additional risk factors whenever you do your jump. So for example, if you had it was your first jump of the year and you had a brand new canopy, that's 2 risk factors that you're adding, and that the weather is not that good, well, now you're at 3. At that point, maybe you shouldn't jump. You know what I mean? So, and I personally experienced that in one of my jumps. It was the first time I was doing 5 jumps in a day. So that was one risk factor because I was more exhausted. Then I was trying a brand new rig, a brand new gear, and I was also downsizing. So that was a second risk factor. And the third one was that I forgot to open my AAD, which is the automatic activation device that we have in our equipment. And so I could have jumped anyways, but that was kind of a 2 out. And on top of that, I had a 4th one, which was jumping out from a brand new, an airplane that I've never jumped out from. So at that point, I was done. Like, there was too much risk factors adding up for that specific jump, so I decided not to jump. So that's something really important that we need to consider. 2 risk factors that you're adding, consider thinking about it, and when you're at 3, that's the cutoff. Like, you shouldn't go jump at that point because there's too many new elements in that jump that might affect and put you at risk. So yeah, that was my takeaway from today. Of course, I had a lot more, but that was one I wanted to share with you. Alright, so if you like that video, consider subscribing not to miss the other videos that I'll put out there, so you want to get notified for them. And on that, stay safe, start your skydiving season in blue skies.